believe it, we're just about into calving again.
I know.
So what should we be looking for?
Yeah. So the big problem is, or the big issue with calf rearing is obtaining healthy stock, obviously, and I guess we're talking more about remote calf rearing enterprises, remote from the parent farm, which seems to be a little industry in its own right, and incorporates a lot of little lifestyle farmers and things as well. So pretty popular, especially around the kind of Canterbury area at the moment.
You're talking about sourcing, so I'm assuming you're bringing stock in.
Exactly. So if you've got a good source of healthy calves, stick with it. It's who you know, someone you can trust. Try and minimise the number of properties that you're buying stock from. So if there is any problems, you're only buying one property's problems in at a time.
And you probably know what those problems are.
Exactly, hopefully. And also, hopefully those animals are going to have some inherent immunity to any infectious kind of conditions, which are the biggies when we talk about problems with calf rearing.
Before we go any further, remember the new rules about transporting?
Exactly. So one of the other big issues with sourcing healthy calves is ensuring that they've had adequate cholesterol intake initially. That's the first milk, of course, for anyone who's not really au fait with the industry and what happens. And with that first milk, there's a lot of antibodies that are absorbed and give protection to the animal over the first 6 to 8 weeks of life. And so adequate cholesterol intake is essential, and the new welfare code that's come about, particularly aimed at bobby calves, sort of helps out a bit in that regard. There's legal premise that adequate cholesterol intake must have been had.
Yeah. Is it wise to mix different herds?
No, because as I've said, there could be different infectious problems cycling or endemic in every parent farm, and so if, for instance, you're buying some calves from one property that doesn't have the same disease as you're buying from another, then of course those calves are not going to have the immunity because there's been no exposure or no cholesterol intake from animals that have been exposed to those bugs. Makes them very, very susceptible to disease, and so when you start bringing them and mixing them all together, it's just a recipe for getting scours in particular, infectious
So keep
diseases.
them isolated.
Absolutely, or minimise the sources that you're getting them from. So if you've got one, preferably, or maybe two really good trustworthy sources that you've got calves from year after year, and you know they're looking after their calves well, that's the way to go, really.
Now, age isolation, do you keep them at different age groups?
Yep, you should say the best way of rearing calves is to keep them in a restricted age bracket, and that really is because certain diseases, when we're looking at problems in groups of calves, seem to be more prevalent in certain age groups, and so by mixing perhaps young calves with older calves that may already be immune to some of the problems that we get with younger calves and still might be shedding some of these bugs without showing the effects of it. Obviously, younger calves coming up and put in the same group are going to be very susceptible, and there's going to be lots of those organisms in the environment. And so a group coming into a system and exiting at the same time and keeping very even weight is a really good thing. And if we're getting disparity in growth rates, it can be very, very tempting to hold animals back and put them with maybe some of the animals growing up behind them, and that's when, if that happens to a large degree, that's when we can get real problems with admixing of age groups. So I think people need to think very carefully before they start shunting poor doers around the place. Perhaps it's a better idea to have an isolation facility or a semi-isolation facility for these poor doers, so you're taking them out of the main group and giving them some preferential treatment rather than chucking them back in a healthy group coming up behind them.
Hygiene, it's the word.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the biggie when it comes to good disease control. Obviously, we just don't want old stale milk and feces and urine stained flooring and things that can breed up infectious bugs. As I've said, the biggest infectious problem, or the biggest disease problem on the whole with calf rearing, is scours or diarrhea bugs. And of course it doesn't take a genius to understand that if we've got festering feed and body waste in the environment, then we can get high numbers of these infectious organisms, and obviously exposed to the calves. So yeah, hygiene is particularly important, as is adequate flooring. So we want good drainage of flooring, so a nice dry surface on the top and easy to clean out thoroughly, and also a thorough decontamination after animals are moved on, so that any bugs that have come up in population in that environment can be easily killed. So a good thorough viricide and disinfectant of all surfaces after animals have left the facility before new ones come in is very important.
Nick, thank you very much indeed, and there's a lot of work to be done in the next few months.